You would have originally asked me in 2023 what I thought 2024 was going to look like in terms of gaming. I would have told you I was very optimistic. We had some big titles on the horizon, and, a lot of them look really cool. We had stuff like Redfall, Skull and Bones, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Starfield, Overwatch, well, maybe not Overwatch 2. Gollum for sure. I know I was excited for Gollum. I don't know about y'all. But nonetheless, there's been a lot of big titles that have been announced, and by the time they came out, we were all very disappointed. I'm going to be honest. A lot of these games that we thought that were going to come from AAA titles are not really what we're expecting. And I'm going to be honest, this trend is something that's been going on for a while now, of paying absurd amounts of money for these games and getting a very lackluster product from it. You're either getting a copy paste from last year's game with a couple skin changes, or you're not really getting a lot of the difference that you would have got, purchasing a different game back in the day. My biggest example before I dive into a couple of these things would be something like the Call of Duty series. I remember when I was a kid playing Call of Duty, anytime a new Call of Duty came out, I'd get excited because I knew there was difference in the game. Whether it be a Black Ops game, I knew there was going to be some sort of diving. I knew there was going to be different types of snipers. I knew there was going to be different types of assault rifles. It was going to be dependent on the time of, the time of the war. There's a lot of variables as to what the game was going to be. But now, year on year, it's the same Call of Duty. Same thing goes with a lot of these other games. Feels like there's no creativity. There's no innovation in these games anymore, and it just gets really boring. With that being said, though, on to this year's, we've had some insane titles drop this year with close to no heads up. One of the bigger titles that we're seeing drop is Helldivers 2, a game absolutely packed with content, close to no microtransactions, and is genuinely, without being one of these garbage live service models, is a game where it's going to be able to maintain players because of the way that it's made, the style, the way that you play the game to earn everything in it, opposed to paying to earn everything in it. It's a really fresh breath in gaming, and it seems like these changes, specifically the ones that we're seeing indie developers come forward with, of you're paying for this game, you get this game, is something I would love to start seeing become more of a norm. It's huge seeing a development team of, a fraction of what something like Activision Blizzard has. And for them to pump out a game that's, in my own opinion, enjoyable than any Call of Duty in the last, in recent years, I think it's astonishing that they can do it for a smaller price tag and have close to no microtransactions in the game. It shows you that you don't need all of this garbage in there, especially when it's just a good game. If we look at Helldivers 1, they had an average concurrent player count of like 4,000 at a peak. We hit 400,000 within the first few days on this game. Kind of wild, considering the time it takes for these indie developed games to be produced and, put out to the public, compared to a lot of these other games that we're seeing. My biggest example here would be something like Palworld. Palworld was announced in 2021. I don't know how long they had been working on it prior to that. I know that the developers of Palworld were working on a couple other games. They've got stuff like Craftopia, very similar styles, but they didn't find their mark until Palworld, really. And, they really hit it off in the Pokemon side of things, I'd say. And it pulled a lot of players that were really interested in that open world aspect. But, at the same time, that's something Pokemon could have easily done. It's something Pokemon fans were asking for, but they haven't. Same thing goes for, I'd say Helldivers 2. They started development in roughly about 2016, so they have been working on the game for quite some time. However, they haven't been working on it as long as some of the other titles that we were, ambitious of this year. We look at Assassin's Creed Black Flag 2. Sorry, my apologies. Skull and Bones. They started developing that in 2013. They released it this year, and it's riddled with bugs. I've talked to a couple friends who have been playing the game, and they've told me that every time they play it, they run into a bug, whether it be their Xbox hard locking and freezing, game crashing within an hour, issues with the Helm Wager, PvP issues, certain missions just don't work. Like, these are the standards that we're now holding AAA titles to, when I genuinely think it should be the other way around. I don't understand a world we're living in where indie developed games are coming out with close to no flaws. They're better than the products that are being put out by these gigantic corporations, and they're just more fun. I can sit down with 4 random people and play a game of Helldivers 2, jump in, complete an entire operation, 3 missions, and by the end of it, I'm not angry at any of them unless they purposefully made me angry, right? If you're playing something like Call of Duty Search and Destroy, and you're playing hardcore mode and your friend kills you by accident, you get pissed, you get angry, you get frustrated, because there's always a detractor in that, right? You're playing and you lose ELO, lose your rank, you lose morale, you just get bummed out because the whole point of that is just to kill the other person. When in games like Palworld and Helldivers 2, maybe I'm just not used to PvE games, but it seems like these communities have just come out of the woodworks and they're not worried about, this or that, arguing about consoles. It's just a good, enjoyable breath of fresh air in gaming that we've genuinely needed for I'd say years at this point. I can't tell you how long I've been sitting here just thinking to myself like, man, the second a really good game comes out, like I'm going to sit there and just grind my ass off. And with me wanting to make these videos now and all these amazing games coming out, I find myself very torn on where to spend my time, but I'm doing a good job balancing it. And I'm really excited to play more of these games because I think it's really a huge shift in the gaming industry. And I think this gaming bubble that the gaming industry has been sitting on is about to burst. We're already seeing lots of layoffs in gaming divisions. In 2013, we saw a layoff of about 10,500 game devs in the gaming industry, and going into 2024, we're already seeing companies like Kotaku Tali cutting 6,000 jobs, and then Microsoft, after acquiring Activision Blizzard, chopping another 1,900 jobs. So I think it's definitely something being said in the gaming industry. If I was working for one of these big corps, I'd maybe start looking for an indie developed team to kind of start working with, especially seeing the numbers that are being pumped out off of these games. I can't imagine if I was somebody working on Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones had a free trial, which is also included in this number of people that were able to like play the game, but they haven't even crossed 1 million players. That is astonishing compared to the slim 19 million copies of Palworld that were sold, or the near 1 million units of Helldivers 2 that have been sold in the last couple days. I think both of them are on track to become 2 of the bigger games this year. And with that, I hope that it gives a huge kick in the side of the head to the gaming industry, because this is what we want. We want games that when you pay your $60, especially in the economy that we're living in, I want my money to be worth what I'm paying for. And when it comes to gaming, if I pay for a game where I'm grinding my bag off, I want a reason to grind. I want camos, I want skins, I want these things that we used to have back in 2014 before battle passes were mixed in and all these live action titles started to come to fruition. It's cool to have a couple of them, don't get me wrong. Something like Warzone's fine. That is fine, right? You have a standard game that will never change. If you want to add microtransactions into that, go for it. But if it's something coming out like, we'll use Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League as example, keep your fucking microtransactions away from me. When I play a single player game, there's zero reason to have that. Even something like an online multiplayer game, not every game needs it. We're seeing Helldivers 2 get away without putting in these live action garbage schemes to keep you playing and playing and playing. They have ways to keep you playing and playing and playing, but it rewards your time and it makes you feel like you've actually earned the stuff that you're getting, opposed to just, paying for it or grinding a battle pass. These days, you shouldn't have to have a specific dedicated budget to make sure your game characters look cool. You should be worried about rent. You should be worried about healthcare. You should be worried about, how you're going to put food on the table. Those are the things that you should be worried about. Genuinely, should not have to have a thought in the back of your head of what skin's coming out next week and what's the price tag going to be on it. It'd be nice if there was a grind to it, similar to how you used to get camos back in the day. Make it difficult. Make them put in hours. Nobody minds. We play video games at the end of the day because we enjoy them. To put more hours into them is not going to be a problem to us, but to put more money into it definitely can be a problem for some of us. That's my thoughts on the entire AAA gaming versus indie developers that I've been seeing lately. I hope you guys enjoyed. I've been seeing a lot of these streamers and YouTubers and all this talk about it, so I figured I'd put my 2 cents in. Only about 10% of y'all watched to this point of the video anyways, so if you did make it here, big ups. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching my videos and giving me the time out of your day. Feel free to drop a comment down below what you thought. If you think the AAA gaming is failing in 2014, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, continue to get these indie titles to the top of the charts and continue to enjoy them so that we get more games like this in the future and continue to enjoy the games that we do play. You guys have a good night. Bye.